Hi. So I'm Sawyer. This is Mickey, and we're gonna do. Fuck. Damn it. Okay. We want to give a talk about MetaCPAN API, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with MetaCPAN API, but that's the name of the talk. The thing is that we don't actually want to talk about MetaCPAN API entirely. We want to kind of remove MetaCPAN API. Instead, we're going to talk about MetaCPAN client. If you read in Perl, maybe the heading was a good notification of that. So what is MetaCPAN client? It's actually a rewrite of MetaCPAN API, and it's what we want to talk about the most. So we have some agenda to this, and we're going to talk about MetaCPAN itself. We're going to talk about what MetaCPAN is, why we have MetaCPAN. We're going to talk a bit about MetaCPAN API. At this point, I'm going to pass the wand or torch or whatever other paraphernalia I have here to Mickey, who will talk about MetaCPAN client. And then we're going to have a bit of a magic show that, of course, will go flawlessly, as all Lev demos do. So MetaCPAN itself, if you're not familiar with it, it is an alternative to search CPAN, which is what we're all familiar with. So this is CPAN as you know it, search CPAN. There's a few problems with search CPAN, which is the reason that MetaCPAN was built. It is closed source. It is old. It's pretty ugly. The fact that it's closed source means that any features that we want to have with search CPAN are limited to those very specific individuals who have access to this and their time and whatever they find important. So a good example is that the only feature I can recall that was added recently was syntax highlighting. And it's not on by default, and all of the available schemes are terrible. So this is something that we complained a lot about, and finally we got this. I think it was also badly done, but it's a thing that we can't really have any innovations done in search CPAN. So it's very important that we have a new thing. And there was a discussion that started, and eventually what happened from that was MetaCPAN. This is how MetaCPAN looks like. There's a lot of differences. I'm going to name a few of them. First of all, MetaCPAN has a standard modern interface. It is completely open source, free software. We can all hack on it. It is community maintained. We add features all the time. Anyone can play with it. It's fantastic. It is also a participant in a lot of outreach programs. It is powered by Elasticsearch, so we get a lot of really nifty things. There's a lot of interaction with other services. So you could get stuff like commit graphs from GitHub, which it's linked to the project. So if we know that the distribution is actually developed on GitHub, we will have all of those commit graphs and bug reports and everything going from there. There's dependencies, reverse dependencies, a bunch of really nice introspection and features that we added to it. There's very nice code browsing with syntax hiding by default. There's raw views in different formats to get the information. It's really, 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 really nice. You should definitely start using this if you're unfamiliar with it, and try it out. I'm certain you will love this. Now, the part that I want to talk a little about here is MetaCPAN API. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. It was a module that I wrote about, I think, 2.5 years ago when MetaCPAN started. And the idea was to have an API module for the MetaCPAN public API. And there's the good parts of MetaCPAN are literally that's it. So it's available. The problem is that, well, the problem is that there are a lot of problems. So this is what I actually want to focus on. And there's a reason why we scratched and removed that completely. First of all, the last update was 2 years ago. I didn't have time to work on it at all. So it wasn't updated in a really long time, which means that it's not really covering a lot of the API that MetaCPAN does provide us. It doesn't cover the author. It does cover the author module in release, but there's a lot of other information that it doesn't cover, which is it's kind of terrible if you want to do more than minimal things. It covers very basic fetches. There's no logic behind it. You cannot apply conditions. You can't look for interesting combinations. You can't have filters. You can send an Elasticsearch structure, but it's kind of weird to somehow coerce that into the API. I know at least one person here that tried doing this, and it doesn't look nice because it wasn't. I think it just wasn't ready for this. It has a lot of fragile code. The first thing that that I said to Mickey when he wanted to work on an open source project, and I suggested MetaCPAN API, he said, well, what's the problem with it? I said, well, the first thing is that it has a lot of fragile code. It actually doesn't handle parameters well, and it will break very, very easily. And I didn't have time to fix that. It will return hashes, which is nice, but it doesn't allow introspection too much. It returns a subset of the Elasticsearch output, and some of the stuff that you get back from MetaCPAN is actually very important. Some of it is like metadata, like facets, which I think I'm pronouncing correctly. So, you know, the raw output it's nice for the basic stuff, but when you want like heavy things, you got to start parsing the data from the hash, and it's pretty horrible. So what we did instead was rewrite it completely from scratch as MetaCPAN client. At this point, I would like to pass it on to the person who actually sat down and wrote the entire thing, which is why we're all here. And that is Mickey. Give him a hand of applause. There you go.
Right, everyone can hear me?
Go to the microphone.
That's
All the way to the microphone.
seriously?
Yes.
I don't see Peter from here. I'll try to speak louder. All right, so MetaCPAN client, that's the new thing, and
Okay, yeah. That's a good idea. Talk, baby, talk. It's cool.
right. As Sawyer said, this is a complete rewrite of the MetaCPAN API module. The reason that we decided to completely rewrite it was basically we looked at the code that we had. We looked at what we want to have, what were our goals, and we figured fixing it is not going to be easier than just starting from scratch. So we did that. The name was changed to MetaCPAN client as a suggestion by Olaf Alders from the MetaCPAN group. And basically, he made that into an official client to MetaCPAN. So that's part of the MetaCPAN package, if you want to call it that, which means that it guarantees our commitment to follow the API and patch it with all the new changes and additions. As I will show you in some examples, some recent things that we added to it. Basically, we cover most of the API. We have several things that are still on our backlog to do, and of course some open issues. Thanks to do there. And we want to basically simplify all the interaction between the user and the MetaCPAN without the need to provide Elasticsearch syntax and read Elasticsearch in syntax, because we don't want your code to be dependent on that if we can provide a simple API that you can always use and always trust, even if the backend is changed. That means that we are returning objects. Our objects will be allowing you to access the data not through the hash entries, but through attributes. Is that okay? All right. We are thinking of some future support for row mod, basically for testing and some other things that we found useful. In general, our way of operation is that we add things based on the need for them. So people ask for features and we add them because we didn't know exactly how people are going to use that module. And we also, one of the things that it will allow us in the future to add more and more connections between the different objects. So for example, if you have an author object, you can pull stuff from that author, like the modules or releases or whatever is connected to that author. Just like on the website, you can click on the author name and go to that same, to have that same experience. Some of the queries that you can do with this with the MetaCPAN client are complex queries. For example, you apply some logic as in I want this and not that, and all those kind of nice little logic phrases, and we're going to show some example of them. To achieve that and to also be nice to the servers, we are basically wrapping the Elasticsearch crawler, which allows us to have paginations and all some nice goodies. What we give back is a result set around our object. Our result set will give you functionality like the total numbers of elements that we have in, and allow you to iterate over the result set itself, which means that we lazily create the objects, and we don't do them all at once because that would have performance penalty to it. Some latest additions. We support the pod object on our end with some multiple formats, just like the MetaCPAN API gives us. So you can request, for example, the plain version, plain text version, HTML, XPod, and some other options. We inserted reverse dependency features. So if you're looking at a module, you can request all the reverse dependencies to it. Or as I like to refer to it, is all the things that you can break by introducing a bug in that module, which is very important. That's Sawyer. Okay. Recent releases. That was a feature I added yesterday, and it was released. MetaCPAN client's latest release was about 5 or 10 minutes ago. With that addition, which gives you the same list of recent releases to CPAN as if you go to the metacpan.org/recent, and you can request either the last X number of releases or everything from today or some kind of date. I still support only today and number, but I will add some more features to allow you to play with the dates and things like that, or time frames. And basically, that's all we had to say about it. And again, come on, man. We want to give you, that's a 5-minute, right? Nice. To show some examples. We can do it live because I have an internet connection, but we'll get the same results, so I'll try to just go through the pre-prepared images. Basically, that's how simple you can query something using that module. All you need to do when you request an author from the MetaCPAN object or the MetaCPAN client object, giving it just the name, you will get back an object of an author, which you can pull attributes out of. As you can see, it's not hash entries, it's attributes. And you can see on the right hand how those look like if we just put this into a nice hash for display. Sorry? That's the pos ID, sorry. A simple fetch on an author goes by pos ID. But I'll show you in a complex way. You can also request based on any other term. If we take the same example into a bit more complicated requirement, we want to see, for example, how many authors we have per country, then we can do this, this query on authors, but not by name or pos ID. We can do it by, for example, the country term. Just selected a couple of them. And here I'm not even producing the objects of every author because I don't need to. It's lazily fetched from the result set, and I'm only pulling the total from the result set. So this will run much faster than if we didn't do it this way. And on the right hand, of course, you can see some numbers just for those countries. Same way, I'm going to run quickly over it, is a module. Again, give it a module name. You'll get back an object. A distribution. In this case, I just chose to show the name and the bugs structure that comes out of the Elasticsearch, but there are more fields in there. You can also request the raw data that comes if you really need the Elasticsearch output. Here's how we do some more complicated queries. For example, we want to see all the Daves and Davids in the author's database. We can use wildcard. I'm sorry, my finger's short. We can use a wildcard to do the complex querying. In this case, we say either this or that, and we show that totally we have 286 Daves and Davids. This number, by the way, did not change since we started working on this module, so no additional Daves and Davids in a few months. And here I'm showing just the overall total and just the names of the first 10 that I could take out of the iteration, just to show that you can pull it however you want. If you filter, and another way of adding some complexity to this query is saying, okay, we want either Dave or Davids, but we also want a restriction for all of them to have a Gmail in the email in one of the email fields in the structure that comes with the author module, and this list contains only 17 in total. And we also added a feature to do a not in the logic queries. In this case, I'm just taking out a few of them based on the first character of the last name. So just see the number, the total number just goes down a little bit. More interesting examples. Reverse dependencies. This is how easy it is to do reverse dependencies. You just call the method revdefs or reverse dependencies, the same. On the module name, you will get all the reverse dependencies, which will come back as a release object, which you can pull a lot of stuff out of. You can do a recursive one, and this one I would, yeah, I can. That's it? 1 minute. Yeah, this is the last example, so we can do it in 1 minute. We can go into, basically it just does the same thing. We just wrap it with some recursive function, and if you want to see everything that will be broken by your bug, including the things that depend on those, then you can call this method. All those examples exist in our GitHub examples tree. You can also add your own if you find interesting ways of using this module, and basically commit them. And
does everyone or anyone have any questions? No questions? One question. You earned it.
What steps can we take to remove search.cpan.org and replace it with MetaCPAN? Repeat the question.
Yeah. What steps can we take to replace search CPAN with MetaCPAN? I think talk to people about MetaCPAN. Once everyone uses it, who cares? Yes?
Do you have documentation for the API separate from the client module?
Documentation for the API separate from?
The website of MetaCPAN.org has an API.
Got to repeat the question. It's
okay.
Documentation separate from the API for MetaCPAN client, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, you can go follow the link API on the website, and you will see it.
All right. So thank you very much.
Oh, and can you make sure to put your slides up on the talk page?
Oh, yeah. Sure. So we'll put the slides in the talk page. Thank you, everyone. Go out, spread the word.